Next speaker is Dan Knight. Dan is a retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel, and among his assignments, a combat leader in Vietnam. Since retirement, he has become an award-winning speaker and writer who has helped thousands of managers become more effective decision makers and innovators. In the past, he was the vice chair of the Creative Education Foundation and led a new mission to engage and develop the next generation of creative thinkers and innovators. He also is a longtime seminar leader for the American Management Association and contributing editor for Strategic and Leadership magazine. And worth noting, in 1988, as a senior USA official in northern Turkey, he turned on the lights in the last village to receive electrical power. What an honor. So please welcome Colonel Dan Knight to present Deal with It, Avoid 3 Major Decision-Making Pitfalls. I give you Dan Knight.
Thank you, Ed. Really appreciate that. The 3 major decision-making pitfalls often occur when we're trying to solve complex and uncertain problems. So let me start by giving you a brief explanation of these problems. The first one is lack of clarity. Second, knee-jerk, solving problems too fast. And the third one is analysis paralysis. Pitfall 1, lack of clarity, usually occurs when we fail to provide a clear definition of our problem and the assumptions behind it. One way to deal with this is to provide information that's relevant and reliable. The second is knee-jerk, solving problems too fast without considering the consequences of your actions. I like to say sometimes we need to slow down to speed up. And one way to cure this pitfall is to do what I call the 4 Ds. And the first one is do it if it's important. Do it now if it's important and urgent. Go ahead and do it now. The second D is delegate it if it's appropriate. The third D is delay it if further study and analysis is needed. And the fourth is drop it if it's of no value. The third pitfall is analysis paralysis. It means solving problems too slow, usually because the risk of fear of failure. I like to say perfection is the enemy of excellence. So now one way to cure this problem is to break it down into steps, small steps, test the steps, and evolve to a complete solution. So let me give you an example from my early career. I was the commander of U.S. Army Field Station Korea, and almost every it was an intelligence collection site, and almost every week the North Koreans would threaten to invade the South. So it was a high stress time for me and all of my colleagues. One day, my boss came to visit me to check on the modernization of our intelligence collection sites. And when he came, I started a rant about my disappointment and unhappiness with the Korean luxury tax. This was because our soldiers could go to PX, buy a stereo or a TV set, and they were tempted to sell it on the black market and make a significant profit. So lo and behold, what happened is one of my senior sergeants fell subject to this. And I was very upset because he was a bad example for our troops. And also I would have to reduce his rank probably and reassign him and ruin his careers. So I was concerned about that. And as I wind down my rant, I noticed that Colonel Parker was staring at me, and suddenly he slapped the table and I saw the coffee wavering in the cups and almost spilling out. And he said, "Dan, when you have problems like this, deal with it." Now, tell me about our collection sites. How is the update coming along? I knew in that moment that I had to take this problem and act on it, not and clearly know what I was about, and not knee jerk or overanalyze the problem. So here's what I did. First, I got to the heart of the problem, which was the sergeant's lack of setting an example for the troops rather than blaming the South Korean luxury tax. Second, I stopped the knee jerk by avoiding being upset and about hurting the sergeant's career. And I had to do so because I had to do what had to be done. Third, I avoided analysis paralysis by breaking the problem down into steps. First, I talked with my executive officer and my sergeant major. Then I called the sergeant in to get his side of the story and make sure he understood the impact that his behavior had had. And then I administered appropriate punishment. So how about you? I think you know that many complex, uncertain, ambiguous problems are out there and need solutions. Problems like the cybersecurity that we're faced with, employee turnover, supply chain problems, just to name a few. And without a doubt, you'll want to avoid the three major pitfalls I discussed in order to be an effective problem solver and decision maker. So in closing, let me add that it's been a pleasure talking with you, and I hope you will, if you want further discussion, please contact me. Feel free to contact me at fivestardecisions.com. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Dan. So, so Dan, I'm kind of inquisitive of what the actual penalty was for that sergeant. So maybe maybe at another venue you can answer that question, not here.
Well, then you'd probably want to know his name too, right?
Yeah, well, there is that. Thank you, Dan.